Southwest Florida, welcome back to Lee Pitts Live. We're here at Mount Hermon Ministries, the positive church and corner in the community here in the city of Fort Myers and on Martin Luther King Boulevard, having a redeeming influence in our community. And we just had a symposium for the ages around the COVID-19 vaccine, the what, when, and where, and the how. These titles, they seem to emerge for these symposium, and they come from the brain of this creative man. I always like those. The Reverend Dr. William Glover. Welcome back to Lee Pitts Live, man.
Always a pleasure, Lee. Thank you.
Talk about those titles, man. You're always able to just does it take you a while to think about them, but you always hit it right to the whatever the symposium is. The titles just fits.
Yeah, pretty much. And then sometimes as you work on something, you tweak the titles a little bit. But this one was fairly easy because it spoke to the hot topic, particularly in communities of color and really across the country. And that goes towards the coronavirus vaccine and whether or not it's safe, and the numbers that are coming out where vaccination in minority populations are lagging way behind white populations. And so it raises the question of why that's happening and how we can address it and when and where people can get access to the vaccination.
We in the symposium, if anybody wants to go back and watch that particular symposium, before we go a little bit farther, tell them how they can go back and watch that, because that was so educational and pretty much answered all of the basic questions.
We absolutely want people to go back and view, and you can do that at Mount Hermon Ministries Facebook. It's going to be posted there indefinitely, and also at Mount Hermon Ministries YouTube. And you can access the YouTube also through www.mounthermonministries.org. And click the live stream. You can access the YouTube and watch it there as well.
This symposium was heavy informational, just like boom, 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 info. This is what you hear. This is what are facts. This is what you hear. This is what are facts. This is what's true. This is what's. Talk about that whole idea of keeping it laser focused on what's just the science.
Because there's multiple factors that contribute to why African Americans are not taking the vaccination, and we talked about all of those factors. And one of the major ones are myths surrounding the vaccination that give us pause for concern, misinformation, conspiracy theories. And so we wanted to present the facts from trusted medical professionals who live and work in our community, as well as with trusted clergy who understand how people's belief system influence behavioral health. And so we thought a panel of that mix of disciplines would really help us get that factual educational message out. So you're absolutely right. We try to answer all of the myths, all of the misinformation, all of the conspiracy theories that people so readily access, and just deal with the facts of the and the information.
How prevalent is the struggle between, in the modern time, religion and science?
At a time when really the divide should be closing, there are those who peddle in fear, and they widen the divide. The more we learned about science, I find it affirms my belief in God, does nothing to diminish my belief in God. And the more I am humbled to really understand the mind and the heart of God, it helps me embrace science. Because the Bible teaches us that the earth is God's handiwork. Science helps us understand the handiwork God put in place. For instance, we all know if we drop something, it falls. Science calls that the law of gravity. It helps us understand why that law works. So I don't see a contradiction in the two.
You said on the panel, and I was listening very closely, about Jesus had a doctor with him.
Okay, well, one of the writers of the Gospels was a physician. His name is Luke. He was actually the physician to the Apostle Paul. And God used a doctor, a physician, to write 2 books of the Bible, the Gospel of Luke and also the book of Acts. So God himself certainly is not anti-physicians when he used a doctor to write 2 books of the Bible, and a doctor traveled with the greatest apostle in the New Testament, and that is the Apostle Paul. On Jesus' end, Jesus made several statements that showed he embraced medicine, even though he was a faith healer himself. He embraced medicine, and he legitimized doctors. One statement Jesus made was that him that is not sick needs not a physician, but him who is sick does. So there we have Jesus saying, even though I'm a faith healer, if you need a doctor, if you're sick, go see a doctor.
Okay.
And hey, if you're not sick, don't go see a doctor.
That's right.
So Jesus legitimizes medicine. He legitimizes doctor. Another way he legitimizes medicine is this was a proverb during that time, but he said to a religious leader, physician, heal yourself. And what that does, it acknowledges there were physicians during that time, and acknowledges that physicians had the ability to heal.
Got you.
Right? So Jesus was not anti-medicine, anti-doctors because he was a faith healer. Jesus healed people because the virtue, the presence, the power of God moved and operated through him, but it was necessary that he do it because during that time, 98% of the people did not have access to doctors.
The Mount Hermon Ministries is now partnering with Lee County government, health department, and so on and so forth. I want you to deliver that good news about the role Mount Hermon Ministries is going to be playing in the vaccination process in this particular community, underserved communities around.
Yes, very, very pleased to make the announcement. And the local health department has acknowledged the disparity in vaccinations between black and white populations. In Lee County, the 20,000 plus vaccinations that have taken place thus far, only 1,400 are going into the arms of black and brown. So they recognize that disparity, and there is a statewide program where counties are identifying community-based vaccination sites, usually churches, faith partners, as a center to drive traffic to make certain those underrepresented populations have access to the vaccination. And they came out a couple of weeks ago. We had conversations about it. They viewed our properties, our premise, our campus, and we met all the criteria to be able to accommodate a vaccination center, to be a vaccination site. And so we have been formalized as a vaccination site for Lee County, for underserved populations. And I am currently working in cooperation with 12 community pastors and their congregations. And for those who are listening and have not heard from me, you will, or please give me a call. We have every indication that this is going to go well. And everyone, obviously, who receives a first shot will get their second shot, because that's what the protocol calls for. And after even that, we will have other vaccination opportunities for people to get their first vaccination. We're starting with the age 65 and older demographic because they're most at risk, and that's what the emphasis is countrywide right now. But we will, as people get vaccinated, begin to address other demographic groups. So we will be communicating these things through the clergy, through the churches in your communities and where you worship.
And we also, it came out in the discussion, but I'll let you expound on it a bit, that transportation to get your vaccination is being addressed, and the system is in place through Lee Tran.
Yes, the program is designed to help overcome the obstacles to black and brown getting vaccinated. First, we have to have a provider of the vaccinations. That's the health department and this program with the state. Secondly, you got to have a faith partner who can accommodate the administration of it. And then their third obstacle is to overcome the obstacles to transportation and people getting there. And that's where Lee Tran comes in. They have been around the table. They are already working through the list and calling people who may need transportation. But if you do need transportation, transportation. Once you get a call, you can report here and get vaccination. You give them a call, and they will arrange for transportation to come pick you up and get you to the vaccination site.
Okay. Right now, if I heard you correctly, I think 500 people are on the list.
Yes.
And what happens from there?
Okay, and that number 500 is very, very significant because part of the narrative is African Americans are fearful of taking the vaccination, and I think the fact that within a week's time frame, clergy who are working with this initiative have been able to register 500 people counters that narrative. People want the vaccination. They just have to have access to it and know they're going to get it. So that's the first thing. That's a very important
These
number.
people are 65 and up.
And these are just 65 and up. So that number is important for that reason. The other reason why it's important is that the way the vaccination is being distributed statewide, not just unique to Lee County, is the states don't always know what number they're going to get from the federal government, and then the counties don't always know what they're going to get from the state. So it's a week in, week out wait to hear what your numbers are, and then decide what distribution sites are going to get those doses. So what has happened is that a community-based site is now in the rotation to get those doses. And so what will happen when we get the call to say, hey, we got doses for your site on this date, can you get people there? Because we have these pre-registrations, we can get on the phones and go through the networks, let people know. You are registered. You're on the list. You show up, you got your ID, prove you're you got a dose waiting for you.
Wow, that's beautiful. Final question. What should people do right now as it relates to what you just said, specifically as it relates to Mount Hermon Ministries being a official site? Is there something, if they haven't done it right now, they need to do?
I start with the conversation with your pastor. As I
Okay.
said, 12 congregations are currently actively involved. And if your congregation is not, it's not an intentional omission, this is a new program, and we had to start with a sampling size to know that we could make it work.
Okay.
I'm satisfied that logistically we can make it work, and now we can expand the network of
Have your
churches.
pastor get in touch with Pastor Glover.
Get in touch. Yeah,
Oh,
you get
yes.
in touch with your pastor, and have your pastor get in touch with me.
Right.
Because we can only add people to our list that we serve. Okay? And then for people who are not a part of congregations, go to your local churches and introduce yourself and say, I'm not a member of this church, but I hear I might be able to access the vaccine. Can I get on a standby list or a wait list? And eventually we'll go through the list of membership, and now we can start going through the list for people in the community.
Okay. I'm glad you brought that point out.
Yeah.
Well, you got it right here, folk, right here on Lee Pitts Live. And I think in 2021, there'll be a lot of talk about this on Lee Pitts Live on Fox 4. And one of the reasons there'll be a lot of talk about it, and we'll be one of the information places along with Mount Hermon Ministries and all the great communication places that are going to be coming afoot is that, my skin color. And you guys have trusted me for 30 years there on the air, and I'm going to get people like Pastor Glover right here to tell you how it really is, and we're going to get all the facts as best as we can. So we'll see you later on Lee Pitts Live.